friends. So it is Friday, December 13th. Happy Friday the 13th. I am procrastinating on going to work at the moment, so I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to come on here and open the next Bookmas vlog, as well as give you a reading update, because in the B-roll, you will have seen where I opened the next advent calendar book, which was Maybe Now by Colleen Hoover. Now, first, I did want to mention that after the last clip of the last vlog, I was still in the middle of Drowning by TJ Newman, which I finished last night, and because I did finish it last night, I needed to go ahead and unwrap the next book, which is why I didn't actually do a sit-down unwrapping of it. But I absolutely adore Drowning by TJ Newman. It was so fast-paced, it was so intense, and even so, she still made me emotionally connect to some of the characters in there. Like, I found myself getting a little bit teary-eyed at some points, which usually doesn't happen with something so fast-paced and plot-driven. So I was very, very impressed with that story. I haven't decided on my rating. It's either going to be a 4 or a 4.5, but I thought it was extremely well done, and I am very pleased with my reading experience of that one. What I was not pleased to see was that Maybe Not was the next book that I was going to be reading, because first of all, it's not something that I'm in the mood for, and it's definitely incredibly different from Drowning, right? But I was never sure that I really wanted to read this book in the first place, because it is a follow-up to Maybe Now, and I didn't feel like that book needed a follow-up, despite it dealing with some complicated relationship dynamics. So in that story, you're following Sydney. She is living with either her boyfriend or best friend at the time, I can't remember, but either way, she comes home to find both her boyfriend and best friend in bed with each other. She ends up being rescued by Ridge, who is the boy that lives in an apartment across the courtyard from her, and she's staying there with his other roommates. And he ends up helping him because he is a songwriter for the band that his brother sings in, and he has been having a dry spell, but she apparently has some kind of writing talent with songs. She helps him write songs. There's a very deep attraction between them. There's obviously a lot of chemistry, but the problem is that Ridge has been in a relationship with a girl named Maggie for the past, I think, like 5 years, and I think they grew up together and they had been in each other's lives for a really long time at that point. So Ridge and Sydney throughout that book are really trying to quell their feelings for each other, because Ridge legitimately loves Maggie. He doesn't want to hurt Maggie. And then in the end, of course, it ends up working out for everyone, because Maggie ends the relationship with Ridge, not because of Sydney, but because of an extra little side plot that was in there, and so it's all like happily ever after. Again, I don't feel like this book needed a follow-up. If this was going to be Maggie's happily ever after, then yes, sure, and that could be featured in this book. But from what I'm understanding from the synopsis, this is more following the dynamics between Sydney and Maggie and them working through their complicated feelings towards each other. And while I understand the desire to explore that more, I don't care to, because this is about Sydney working through her jealousy about Maggie, and I don't feel like she has a right to be jealous of Maggie, because ultimately she's the one that became the catalyst between their split, even though it wasn't ultimately about her that they split up. And she has to understand that Ridge and Maggie were together for a really long time before she came into the picture. They've been friends for a while, and so she has to accept that Ridge is going to be Maggie's friend and they are going to talk. So she really has to get over this jealousy that she's feeling. And at the same time, Maggie also has to understand that if she wants to maintain a friendship with Ridge, she doesn't have to be besties with Sydney, but she has to accept that Sydney is a part of this package now too, right? So I just don't feel like that needs to be explored, in my opinion, and I'm not interested in exploring it. So I got about 14% of the way through this book, and I realized that this is just not what I wanted to be reading, especially because this book takes place almost immediately after the last book left off, when Sydney and Ridge are just officially getting together. And so they're like all in love and having sex all the time, and it's like, you know what, I just don't care. And at this point, I'm just kind of feeling the ick, because Sydney is jealous of Maggie and all of this stuff, and I'm like, you know what, this book does not need to exist, and I don't need to read it. So I am going to move on to the next book, book number 7, which means I am now almost mostly caught up in this project, although this next book is a chunker. So we're gonna see what it is. I have it, I'm gonna go grab it, and then I'm going to unwrap it. I only have one hand, so we are going to see how this goes. Oh, The Will of the Many by James Islington. I have heard amazing things about this book, but as I mentioned in the Advent Calendar TBR that I did, I'm not going to force myself to read any chunky fantasies right now. I definitely cannot give this book the time that it deserves. I would not be able to concentrate on it. It would be a mess. I'm not going to do that to this book. I'm going to go ahead and add it to my TBR, and I'm going to have to figure out what I'm reading next. So unfortunately, I don't have the answer for you right now, but as soon as I do, I will let you know. Hi friends, I am currently on my lunch break, so I thought I would just give you a quick update because on my way to work, I decided to start A Home for the Holidays by Taylor Hahn. This is a book that I actually grabbed in my most recent book of the month order, and since I'm having to add The Will of the Many to my TBR, I thought it would be smart to go ahead and pick something from my physical TBR to read instead. This is actually one of the 2024 releases that really piqued my interest, and so when I saw it on Book of the Month, I thought it would be a great idea to grab it. I'm actually really pleased that it's very short. It's less than 8 hours of listening time, and since I listen on 2 times speed, it will be 4 hours or less. So while I probably still will not finish it today, I will definitely finish it tomorrow and be able to kind of now stay on track, hopefully, for this project. One of the reasons that this really appealed to me was that this seems like it's going to be a little bit harder hitting. It follows our main character who just found out that her mother passed away, and she has kind of complicated feelings about her mother. She loved her mother dearly, but her mother had a problem with alcohol, and so all growing up, she would frequently neglect like standard motherly things, but yet always made holidays and events a really big deal. And so since her mother has passed away at Christmas, all of these other memories with her mother are coming back. I believe what's going to happen is she is going to connect with an old friend of her mother's, and she's going to find out about a side of her mother that she never knew, and she's going to kind of get swept up in this new family and everything like that. And so we definitely haven't gotten to that part yet. We've only just found out that her mother has passed away, and she's trying to deal with that grief and what else is currently going on in her life. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. I was almost immediately interested in the story and the writing. I feel like this is going to be a very character-driven story, and y'all know how I appreciate those. So far, so good. I will once again come on here when I have a midway update just to give you more of my thoughts and feelings, and then of course when I've finished the book. So that's it for now. I'm gonna go ahead and eat lunch, and I will check in with you later. Hello friends, happy Saturday. I am just about to get ready for the day because it is tattoo day. If all goes according to plan, I will be getting my tattoo shaded, and I'm very excited about it. There will actually be a separate vlog all about the tattoo experience, and that should be live on my channel already, so you can go check it out if you're interested. But I did want to make sure that I had an opportunity to come on here and give you a reading update because I have a feeling I will have finished the book before my next opportunity, and I wanted to make sure there was a midpoint check-in. So we have reached the point in the story where Mel, our main character, has been approached by a woman named Barbara, and Barbara claims that she was Mel's mother's best friend 35 years ago, but they haven't spoken in that time. They had a falling out, and Barbara heard that Mel's mom had passed, and she sent her condolences, and she wanted to make sure that Mel knew the side of her mother that Barbara knew, because apparently Mel's mom had a past that Mel really knew nothing about. She had aspirations of being like a country songwriter, and there was a potential for them to make it big. And so we are just now getting to the point where Mel and Barbara have had a real opportunity to talk and get some things sorted, but I know that we have just cracked the surface of all of this. But we are also now at the point where Mel has met Barbara's son, Henry. And I think that there is going to be a budding romance between the two, but it is complicated because Mel just ended a 3-year relationship and Henry is currently going through a divorce. So it is both a little bit messy, but they definitely have an attraction to each other. So I'm interested to see where that progresses. And this is all happening, of course, during the holidays, which is very difficult for Mel because I think, as I mentioned before, Mel's mom used to really do big for Christmas. And so she's having to struggle with her grief, and it's complicated grief. That's really what this book is about, complicated grief, because Mel loved her mom dearly. She absolutely loved her mom, but she put a lot of distance between herself and her mother because of her mother's drinking. And growing up, she had good parts of her mother and bad parts of her mother. There were some things that her mother did really well, and there were some things that her mother did terribly and was very neglectful about. So it's a whole lot of feelings that Mel is currently going through, and I think that Barbara is going to help her resolve some of those feelings, and of course we might see a little bit of a romance bloom between Mel and Henry. And I am having a really good time with the story. I'm really enjoying it. Even though it's short, this feels honestly like a fully developed story. I feel as though I'm getting so much of Mel. I'm learning so much about her mother. I'm learning about Barbara. I'm sure we're going to be learning more about Henry, and I'm excited to proceed. So my hope is to finish this today so I can remain on time with the Advent calendar. And if that's the case, I will try to unwrap the next Advent calendar book tonight. If I can't, then I will do it tomorrow morning with y'all. But for now, it's time to get ready to go get a tattoo. Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday. I am just about to get ready for a big day of filming, but I needed to come on here and give you an update because I finished A Home for the Holidays and I need to go ahead and unwrap the next advent calendar book because I finished A Home for the Holidays last night and I haven't had a book for this morning because I was waiting to unwrap it here with y'all. So that is what we are going to do right now. Just as a quick wrap up of my thoughts for A Home for the Holidays, I think I got exactly what I wanted from this story. There were a lot of different aspects packed in. As I mentioned before, this is definitely a story about grief and complicated grief at that. This is also a story about a found family because our main character Mel really does get absorbed into Barbara's family, and it was really sweet to see, especially since Mel was essentially on her own at that point. You know, her mom is gone, she's not super close to her dad at this point in her life, and I really enjoyed that found family aspect to it. So overall, it was just a really sweet and heartwarming time with an added layer of substance and depth that you might not be expecting normally from such a holiday read. I would say my biggest complaint in the story is about the romance, and that is just because of how extremely quickly it happened in here. This is definitely an insta-love situation, and I didn't feel it was appropriate for the type of book that we were reading and considering the individual situations of the two love interests. So I didn't really feel like either one of these characters was in a position to jump into a relationship, let alone basically tell each other that they love one another within, I would say, like 2 weeks of meeting. That felt extremely fast and unrealistic for me, and it is not really something that I could get behind. Even though I liked both of the characters, I really wanted them to be in a relationship, but I thought that this book would be the start of their relationship, not going headfirst full on into this relationship, if that makes sense. I think I'm gonna go ahead and settle on a 3.5 stars for this one. I am really glad that I chose to read it. It was definitely the perfect read for this time of year, and I'm glad that I also decided to pick it up from Book of the Month. All right, now if I'm correct, I'm supposed to be unwrapping Advent Calendar book number 8. This definitely feels like a small paperback, so that is hopeful. Once again, I'm gonna go ahead and unwrap this off camera and then we will pull the wrapping off together. All right, so I have the wrapping loose. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it off and let's see what we get. And it's backwards. The Coworker by Frida McFadden. Okay, we are jumping into a Frida McFadden. This is definitely the year of Frida McFadden for me. I have read 3 or 4 of her books already this year, and I'm not mad about it. I know that this is going to be a fun, fast, quick read. It's not going to be something that I need to think too heavily about, and that is exactly what I'm looking for. This says, Dawn Schiff is trained. At least everyone thinks so at Vixt, the nutritional supplement company where Dawn works as an accountant. She never says the right thing, she has no friends, and she is always at her desk at precisely 8:45 a.m. So when Dawn doesn't show up to the office one morning, her coworker Natalie Farrell, beautiful, popular, top sales rep 5 years running, is surprised. Then she receives an unsettling anonymous phone call that changes everything. It turns out Dawn wasn't just an awkward outsider. She was being targeted by someone close. And now Natalie is irrevocably tied to Dawn as she finds herself caught in a twisted game of cat and mouse that leaves her wondering who is the real victim. But one thing is incredibly clear. Somebody hated Dawn Schiff enough to kill. Say no more about it. I am 100% here for it, and I will be starting this one today, and I will let you know once I have some thoughts and feelings on it. Good morning. It is currently Monday, December 16th. It is the last week of work that I have before our university closes for winter break. On top of that, there is a luncheon this afternoon for my individual school. Our campus is going to have their Christmas party tomorrow, and then on Friday, I'm going to be going up to the other campus to celebrate with my team. So it is going to be an insane week, but I just hope that it is not too terribly crazy to the point where I have to leave a bunch of stuff undone until we come back from winter break, because I absolutely cannot stand that. But anyway, y'all are here for a reading update because I have not updated you since I started The Coworker by Frida McFadden. I started it yesterday after I unwrapped it, and I got a good chunk of the way through. I would say that I'm probably over halfway at this point. As per usual with a Frida McFadden, it is very fast-paced and it's very compelling. So this follows our main character, Natalie, and she works for this like vitamin supplement company. And one day she realizes that her coworker, the accountant for the company that works right next to her, hasn't shown up for work, and that's very, very unlike her. Dawn is a very, very rigid person. She has a routine that she sticks to like clockwork. She is never late. She is always early. She is giving off very Eleanor Oliphant vibes, if that makes sense. And so she doesn't show up to work one day, and Natalie is really concerned, and that gets exacerbated when she answers a call that's coming into Dawn's phone, and the person on the other end just says, "Help me." So Natalie is concerned, but nobody is taking her concerns seriously. So she ends up going to Dawn's house, and when she's there, she finds a big pool of blood. So naturally, she calls the police, and it gets an investigation started. But what Natalie is not expecting is to be the main suspect in the investigation. But what's really interesting about the way that this story is told is you are also getting Dawn's perspective from emails that she sent her best friend who was living across the country from her at the time. And it's giving a very different perspective of her time working at this vitamin supplement company. So on the one hand, you're following Natalie, and she's painting this picture of not necessarily being friends with Dawn, but being friendly with Dawn and being worried about her and all of this stuff. But Dawn is painting a picture that Natalie was bullying her at work, and Natalie was stealing from the company and doing all kinds of crazy things. So it's kind of like a she said situation, and you are not sure who to trust. You are not sure who is responsible. Now, I have a couple of theories about what could actually be happening here, but Frida McFadden is usually able to really surprise me with her twists. And so far, like I said, I'm finding this really to be an engaging story. I'm really interested to find out what is actually happening here. Who did this to Dawn? Is Natalie really to blame? Or maybe Dawn is not as innocent as we think she is. I'm not sure, but I am having a great time. I will 100% finish the story tonight, and then I can open the next advent calendar book. We are almost there, y'all. I think we only have 4 books remaining, so we are getting there. I cannot believe how quickly this month has flown. It is absolutely wild, and I'm so sad about it because I always anticipate the holiday season every year, and it always goes by so fast. Anyway, I need to go get this day started and brace myself for what's to come. So I will check in with you when I have officially finished The Coworker and when I'm ready to open the next advent calendar book. Later the same night, I am sitting here at my desk about to edit because I'm afraid I'm falling behind on the editing a little bit. But I did finish The Coworker while I was making dinner, and I will be sure to update you more on my thoughts tomorrow morning. But for now, I wanted to go ahead and unwrap the next advent calendar book so that I do have something to listen to tomorrow morning when I'm getting ready and like on my way to work and stuff, because I don't know when I'm going to have an opportunity to give you a full update. So I'm going to go ahead and unwrap this now and show you what I got. Okay, as per usual, I have unwrapped it. I have not looked at it, but let me tell you that this feels like a chunky ass paperback. So I'm a little bit nervous, but let's see what it is. Ooh, The Clinic by Kate Quinn. That is not what I was expecting. I've heard mixed things about this, but I've also heard really good things from people who don't usually read thrillers, and I think that's what really got me interested in this. This says, Meg works for a casino in LA, catching cheaters and popping a few too many pain pills to cope, following a far different path than her sister Haley, a famous actress. But suddenly reports surface of Haley dying at the remote rehab facility where she had been forced to go to get her addictions under control. There are whispers of suicide, but Meg can't believe it. She decides that the best way to find out what happened to her sister is to check in herself, to investigate what really happened from the inside. Battling her own addictions and figuring out the truth will be much more difficult than she imagined, far away from friends, family, and anyone who could help her. Okay, I'm here for it. I am exactly in the mood to read another thriller after The Coworker. It's just kind of where my heart is at the moment, something that I don't necessarily think I'm going to have to think too terribly hard about. This is over 400 pages, so it is definitely more on the chunky side, but that is okay. I am a little bit ahead now in this project, so I am very excited to jump into this. So I will be starting this tomorrow. I will give you my initial thoughts when I'm also updating the end of The Coworker. So I'll check in then. Friends, I am trying to edit. He is not letting me edit. So if I have some videos come up late, I would like you to see who is to blame here. Good morning, everyone. It is currently Wednesday morning, only 3 more days of work. I apologize for my voice if it sounds a little bit raspy and low. I don't know if I'm getting sick or if I just have like a scratchy throat, but I'm sounding really husky at the moment. But anyway, I lied to you the other night when I unwrapped the clinic because I told you that the next morning I was going to finalize my thoughts on the coworker and then tell you what the clinic's about. But by the time I got to work yesterday, I had only listened to less than an hour of the clinic and I had no concept of overall what it was going to be about, and I just really didn't have the time to update you. So I apologize about that. It's been about a day since I've picked up a camera to vlog. With regard to the coworker, I really had a great time with that. That was a Freida McFadden that for sure was compelling from start to finish, and I really enjoyed the way that it was told because you don't know which perspective is telling the truth. You know that something suspicious is happening, but you don't know who to trust. You don't know if you should trust Natalie or you don't know if you should trust Dawn. Ultimately, I had a great time with this book from start to finish. In pure Freida McFadden fashion, this was just compulsively readable. It was a popcorn thriller. It's not something substantial. It's not something where you're going to be like super emotionally invested in all the characters or anything like that. But it was a good time, and I'm really glad that I got an opportunity to read it for this advent calendar challenge that I'm doing. Now, with regard to the clinic, I've actually made it quite a solid chunk of the way through since I was listening to it all day yesterday. I would say that I'm at about the 40% mark, so I have a good idea of what is happening. Essentially, this follows our main character, Meg, and her sister is a really famous singer, and she is kind of the party girl. She has the reputation for partying and getting wasted and causing trouble and everything like that. And she has recently gone into rehab. And we find out that Meg's sister actually dies in rehab. Everybody is saying that it was either an accidental overdose or an intentional suicide, but Meg does not believe that. She does not believe that her sister would do that. And she's very suspicious because it said that Haley died of a heroin overdose, but she was not a heroin user. So Meg, being very suspicious, actually decides to check into the clinic to investigate what is going on. Now, Meg definitely has her own addictions. She is an alcoholic and she's also addicted to Oxy because of a pain injury that she has. And people in her life hope that she's going to go to rehab and actually try to get clean, but she's smuggled in pills because she wants to stay sharp and clear. So she's not actually doing the work. She's really trying to investigate what happened with her sister and what is going on at this clinic. You're also following her interactions with some of the other people at this clinic and all of the things that they went through and their connections to her sister. Then you're also getting the perspective of Kara, and she's kind of like the manager of the facility, but it turns out that there are quite a few things she doesn't actually know about the clinic and what is going on. So she is starting to uncover that as well. And of course, there is a police investigation because the police don't actually think that Haley died of suicide, but the clinic owner is not exactly being forthcoming. So I have no idea what is going on with the clinic, what actually happened to Haley, and what the end result of it is going to be. Ultimately, I would say that this book is fine. I am enjoying myself while I'm reading it, but I can already tell you that this is not a book that is going to stick with me because the characters I feel like are very two-dimensional. There is not a lot of character development in here. It is definitely not a character-driven story. It is very much plot-driven. Overall, it's fine, but this isn't a masterpiece. This is not something that's going to stick with me, but I am definitely going to finish it. You know, I want to know what happens. So it's not like a DNF or anything egregiously terrible. It's just not doing anything mind-blowing. But anyway, y'all, I have been yammering for so long at this point. I have got to get into work, but I will check in with you when I have finished the clinic. Good morning, friends. It is the morning of Friday, December 20th. It is my last day of work before winter break. I'm actually heading up to our other campus today because my team, pretty much all of my main team, is up there on the other campus. We're doing a small little potluck from 9 to 11. So I'm going to head up there and then I'm going to stay the rest of the day getting some work done until it's time to leave. But I did finish The Clinic this morning by Kate Quinn, and overall I found this to be a pretty mediocre, forgettable read. The best way that I can describe this book is flat. I felt like it was just a steady feeling of meh. I was never truly fully engaged with the story. I definitely was never emotionally invested in the characters. In fact, I found a lot of the characters like pretty unlikable. I mean, you are dealing with a lot of addicts and stuff who are doing shady things and have not done the best in their life. You pretty much know that nobody in the story can be trusted, and to be honest, when the reveals came out, they were just really lackluster. I honestly didn't care. I wasn't super surprised by it or anything. I feel like Kate Quinn was trying to be really shocking and nefarious. It didn't work out, unfortunately. So I really don't have too terribly much else to say about the story. It was a book that exists and I read it, and I will probably promptly forget everything about the story that I read. So for now, we have book 10. Once again, I'm going to unwrap it to the point where I can easily extract the book and we will see what it is. I have the book here. It was really hard not to look because my husband like wrapped this in layers. It was really hard to get out of the wrapping and I had to kind of tear it to shreds. But let me go ahead and quickly drop the wrapping and we will see what we get. Oh, it is backwards. Hold on, let me flip it. Between You and Us, Kendra Broquis. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I don't recognize this book, so if it was on my wish list, I have completely forgotten about it. Let me see what it says. When Leona Warland heads across the city to meet her husband David for a rare dinner out, she hopes they can share a moment of relief after their year of loss. Okay, this is ringing a bell. But Leona quickly realizes this is no ordinary date night. She hasn't just stepped into an upscale restaurant, she's stepped into a different version of her life. One in which her marriage is no longer tender, in which her days are pressured by her powerful in-laws, and in which her precious baby girl live. Now Leona must weigh the bitter and sweet of both trajectories, facing an unimaginable choice. Stay in a world where tragedy hasn't struck, but where the meaningful life she built with David is gone. Or return to a reality that's filled with struggle and sorrow, but also deep and enduring love. Okay, now I remember the synopsis of this. So this is giving me a lot of Taylor Jenkins Reid vibes. I'm not sure how I feel about that just in this moment of life. I don't know if this is what I'm in the mood for. I'm going to give this a shot. I just need to see where I can source the audiobook. I have a 1-hour commute to the other campus this morning, so this is going to be the perfect opportunity to start this. And speaking of that, I do need to go finish getting ready. So once I have started this and I have some thoughts, I will let you know. Hi everyone, it is later the same day and I'm sitting out here outside of my gym waiting to go in. But I wanted to take a moment and update you because I have actually already made it halfway through Between You and Us. This is not a terribly long audio, it is just over 9 hours. And since I listen on 2 times speed, that's about 4.5 hours. So I am just now reaching the 2-hour mark. And I thought I should definitely come on here and update you because I'm about to finish this. So essentially this follows our main character, Leona. And at the start of the story, she is about to enter a very fancy restaurant because she and her husband David are celebrating 10 years of marriage. But when she gets to the table, she notices that David is very different. He is cold, he is distant, he is not the same guy that she's been married to for 10 years, right? When they drive home, they go to a house that she recognizes but is not their home. And the most important difference is that their daughter in this is actually alive. We haven't actually found out what happened to their daughter, but in this timeline, she is alive. We don't know as readers what actually happened, like why she is suddenly in this alternate life. All we know is that she is. So she's struggling because she misses her David. She misses the one that she's used to being married to for the past 10 years and their life that they have built together. But at the same time, she loves her baby girl. And basically, we are being told the story through the perspective of this alternate timeline, but we are also getting flashbacks to when she and David first met and the building of their relationship and how it has all developed over the past 10 years. And I am really enjoying it. Like, I find myself really engaged in the story. I'm very intrigued by the concept, but I'm really enjoying the unique take on the story overall. I really like the flashback scenes where we are learning about their relationship. I think I'm enjoying that more than the scenes of her in the present day in the alternate timeline. I will say though that this is not written in a way that is allowing me to really emotionally connect yet to the characters. I can't explain it, but I feel like it's written with a sense of distance. Maybe it's because it's in third person. That could be adding to it. Now, I do understand that in some ways it's because we are all kind of thrown into this circumstance. Leona is thrown into this alternate timeline. We as readers are also thrown in. And so we're all kind of just trying to figure out what is happening. And since Leona doesn't know what's happening, we don't know what's happening either. But at the same time, I would expect with the flashback time period that we would be getting a little bit more from that I would feel a little bit more emotionally connected. But I'm still really enjoying it. I'm just not emotionally invested like I would want. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and hit the gym and I will check in with you a little bit later. Everybody, it is currently Sunday, the morning of the 22nd, and I wanted to give you an update because I have officially finished Between You and Us by Kendra Broquis. But I'm so happy to say that I really liked the story. I enjoyed this far more than I was expecting to. I don't know why, because the synopsis of this was like right up my alley. I just wasn't sure because I wasn't exactly quite in the mood for a story like this. I had never read anything from this author who I believe did primarily nonfiction, so this is definitely something different for her. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. I believe I mentioned that this is kind of like a different take on sliding doors. You have our main character, Leona. She has been married to her husband, David, for 10 years. They are happily married, even though they do struggle financially. David gave up the privileges of his wealthy life to be with Leona, and they have recently lost their baby to a car accident, unfortunately. And one day she is going to meet with him for their 10-year anniversary celebration dinner. But when she gets to the restaurant, he is not the David that she knows. He's very cold and distant, and she soon realizes that this is not her David. This is a David from a different timeline. So you're following our Leona in an alternate timeline as she's trying to deal with the fact that she is not in her timeline, and she and the David in this timeline don't have the best relationship, but she's very much struggling with the idea of whether or not to go back. And that's kind of the sliding doors aspect. She has to choose. Does she stay in this life with her daughter and even start over with this other David who kind of wants her to do that? You know, he has been struggling in the marriage with his Leona. There's a lot of things that are going on there. They're struggling. They haven't really been intimate in a long time. And so that's the sliding door aspect to it. I just found it to be very, very thought-provoking. I really like the way that Kendra told this story, and that you are following Leona in her alternate timeline. In her real timeline, you're following her in which she met and married David, had Vera, and all of the things that she went through. And ultimately, I just thought that this was a really enjoyable story. There was definitely a lot of conversation about grief in here that I really appreciated. I did start to really emotionally connect to it by the end. There was definitely some scenes in here that started to get me a little bit choked up and teary-eyed. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and give this a really strong 4 stars. And I do recommend, if you do like authors like Taylor Jenkins Reid and, you know, maybe In Another Life or something like that, I do feel like you could enjoy this one. All right, friends, so we are down to the final 2 advent calendar books. We have books 11 and 12 here. I'm actually going to open them both in this clip. And the reason is because I'm about to film my final haul and unhaul of 2024. And I want both of these to be included. Also, I want to make sure that once I finish book 11, I'm immediately able to just jump into book 12, that I don't have to sit down and film the clip of opening the book, right? I want to be able to make sure to get these done by the 25th if possible, because I have today, tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I have 4 days to finish these 2 books, and I think it's absolutely possible depending on what they are. And so I just want to know what they are, and I want to be able to plan for them and stuff. So we're going to go ahead and open book 11 and 12. So this is another kind of chunky one, and I'm really, really nervous about it. So let me get the wrapping off and we'll open it together. All right, I'm sorry if there was an angle change. My battery was exhausted. I had 22% battery left at the start of the clip, and I thought I had plenty of time to film this, but apparently not. So I do have the book here and open. I'm just gonna go ahead and slide off this wrapping paper so we can see what it is. I never know if I'm holding these books upside down or not, so let's see. It is backwards and upside down, I believe. Error of fire. Okay, so if you remember, the very first book that I opened at the beginning of this project was Throne of Glass. I have these on my wish list because I have alternate covers that I want to put on them. So I'm actually going to be putting the alternate dust jacket on this instead. So in replacement of that book, I think I know exactly what I'm going to read instead. I'm going to read Rental House by Wei Wang. This was a book that I recently got in my December Book of the Month box, and my hold from the library for that book came in. That was fortunate that I would actually be able to take advantage of the library loan. I didn't think I was going to be able to because of this advent calendar challenge. It was actually perfect that this was a book that I didn't actually need to read for this. So one down, the next one to go. And the very final advent calendar book that we are unwrapping today is A Court of Thorns and Roses. Whoa, okay. I could not have planned this better myself. All right, so 2 back-to-back Sarah J Maas books that I have actually already read. I do not need to read. I am literally only getting these so that I can put alternate dust jackets on. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put the other dust jackets on these and call it a day. All right, everyone. Well, I'm terribly sorry that the last 2 books of this advent calendar are actually ones that I'm not going to read. I think that I'm just going to kind of allow myself to pick up whatever I want as my 12th and final advent calendar book. Like I said, I am going to get to Rental House since it did come in as a hold for my library. So that was a success, I'll say. We successfully got through all 12 books of the advent calendar challenge, and I'm pretty pleased. So I will check back in with you when I've actually started Rental House. Hi friends, so it is a little bit later on Sunday, and I wanted to give you an update because I'm already 42% of the way into Rental House by Wei Wang, which is not surprising because, like I said, this is a very short book. It is only 213 pages. The audiobook was less than 6 hours, and I'm listening on 2.15 speed. So I will hopefully be finishing this today because I'm honestly not enjoying it very much. This follows our main character, Karu. She is Chinese American. Her parents immigrated from China when she was just 6 years old, and she is married to Nate, who is very much much white. His parents are portrayed as very backwater Americana, born and raised in Appalachia and everything like that. And so this book is all about the cultural divide that exists between not just Carew and Nate or Nate's family, but also Carew and her own family, and also what it means to be a Chinese American and not just straight American. So she's dealing with a lot of cultural conflict in her life. And so she's struggling with that. She's struggling essentially the divide between being Chinese and being American. And then she's also struggling with Nate's parents. And so far, this whole thing has just been a very negative, cynical look at either one of these cultures. And I feel like Weike Wang went out of her way to produce the worst case scenario for a Chinese American woman married to a white man. Like I said, this is very stereotypical backwater Americana. That is how she's portraying Nate's parents. You know, they're from Appalachia, so they have a level of ignorance to them. They also have a level of like passive racism where they don't think that they're racist and they declare they're not racist, but they have these microaggressions that they continuously say and things like that. And, you know, they voted for Trump, you know, which is also a strike against them and all this kind of stuff that's going on. Now, I obviously cannot speak towards the immigrant experience, and I definitely cannot speak to what it means to be a hyphenated American. And so I am sure that some of the commentary that Weike Wang is putting in the story is accurate. I'm sure that it is accurate for a lot of immigrants to America, or at the very, very least, it is true towards Weike Wang's own experiences or people in her life, or this is something that she believes to be true. So I am not discounting any of it, but I do think that this is all very, very cynical. It is all very negative. I don't particularly like being in Carew's head. I don't like some of the actions and the thoughts that she has. She also feels like very apathetic, like she just doesn't care. And I'm not like really sure what the overall point or trajectory of the story is. I feel like my expectations were wrong going into the story. I don't know, this just feels like so much. I don't know if complaining is the right word, but it is just like not really working for me. I just really kind of want to be done with the story, which is unfortunate. I was hoping that this was going to have more of a point. So not really pleased with the overall reading experience. I'm hoping that this gets a little bit better. I'm almost positive that I will be finishing this before I have another opportunity to update you. So once I've finished it, I will let you know if my thoughts have changed. Well, my friends, it is later Sunday night. I have officially finished Rental House by Weike Wang. And honestly, y'all, this is probably one of the most pointless books I've ever read. I have no idea what the purpose of the story was. I have no idea what I was supposed to get out of it. I didn't find Carew to be a likable character at all. She felt very cynical, very apathetic, but yet at the same time, she always had this like longing for family. Like I could not get a grip on her character. Her character felt very underdeveloped, very flat. She didn't seem to have any kind of personality whatsoever. Then all of a sudden she was showing these signs of empathy and compassion and wanting to be social and make friends and have family. Her husband Nate definitely wasn't a well-formed character whatsoever. I am just so incredibly frustrated by my reading experience of this book. I need somebody who has read this book to tell me what the purpose of this was. I almost liked nothing about this book. The dog in this book was probably the best thing. I'm so thankful that this was short because there was absolutely no plot. This was entirely character driven, yet the characters were not developed. And like I said, they had no personality whatsoever. They were very two-dimensional in my opinion. And I feel like I honestly wasted 3 hours of my life today, which is very, very disappointing. I think I'm giving this a 2 stars and I am quickly moving on. Obviously, as you will have seen from the other clip from today, I have already opened the last Advent Calendar book and it's something that I've already read. So I needed to come up with something to read in its place. And I think that I have settled on the 4th Finley Donovan book. I think it's called Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice. I really want something right now that is just going to be a very fun, casual read, something that I'm going to enjoy, something that's not going to take too terribly much brain power, and something that's just going to be a good time because I have a feeling that this is going to be my last book of the year. And luckily, it's currently available from my library via audio, so I can start listening to it immediately. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to try to erase Rental House from my mind. Anyway, I have to go finish my nightly chores before we head to bed, but I just wanted to come on here and vent my frustrations, tell you that it's done, it's over with, and I'm on to the 12th and final book of the Advent Calendar Challenge. Christmas. It is Christmas morning and I wanted to go ahead and come on here and wrap up this vlog. I apologize for this hideous monstrosity on my face. It popped up yesterday and I cannot say that I am surprised. My body has been running itself into the ground, running on pure adrenaline basically for the past like 4.5 months, and now that things are finally starting to slow down a bit, everything is kind of catching up with me. So unfortunately it's just really ugly and there's nothing that I can do about it. But it's actually been a few days since I came on here and updated you. I don't think I've come on here and updated you since I finished Rental House by Waiki Wang. I really haven't come on here to update you for a few reasons. First of all, just because I haven't really had much of an opportunity, but also since I unwrapped the final 2 advent calendar books and they were both Sarah J Maas books that I've already read, I knew that I was just going to basically choose whatever I wanted to read for that final book, and I decided to choose the 4th Finlay Donovan book called Finlay Donovan Rolls the Dice, and I'm so glad that I did. It was just the kind of book that I needed. It was something that was really enjoyable. It gets you kind of sucked in. It's easily entertaining, and even though it is an easy listen, it is also something that you have to kind of pay attention to or you're not going to be able to follow the story, because the Finlay Donovan books are surprisingly complex in their own way, and I just had a really great time with it. It's probably one of my favorites in the series so far. I'm really looking forward to the 5th book coming out. But anyway, since I had chosen that book, there wasn't really anything that I was going to be able to update you on, just because it's the 4th book in a series and it literally picks up the same day that the 3rd book ended. But like I said, I had a great time with this story. It is one of my favorites now in the series. But yeah, I really didn't feel the need to come on here and give you an update about Finlay Donovan, just because there wasn't going to be much that I was able to say about it. But I did finish it last night on Christmas Eve, and that is officially going to be my last read of 2024. Another reason why I haven't really come on here to update was just because this vlog was getting unmanageably long in terms of the raw footage. It takes me a really long time to edit vlogs. I'm not sure why, but they definitely feel a lot harder to edit than a normal sit-down video. And so I already had over an hour of raw footage. That was before the Rental House updates and some of the other B-roll footage that I've captured. And so it definitely got to a point where I knew I wasn't going to be able to edit the video in time for it to go up tonight at 5 p.m. like it is supposed to. So I just kind of allowed myself for the past couple of days to just catch up. I was catching up on the house chores. I was catching up on some computer work that I needed in terms of like Bookmas and Patreon and stuff like that. And I'm finally to a point where I feel a little bit more settled. Like I can finally take a breath after so many weeks of being behind on literally everything. And so I'm almost positive that I'm not going to be able to get this vlog up at 5 p.m. today, but my goal is to get it up 5 p.m. tomorrow. It will be the only Bookmas video that I was late on. So I'm so sorry about that, but I hope that you understand. I've had a really great time filming all of this Bookmas content for you. I greatly appreciate everybody who has been consistently watching, who has been commenting, and who has been coming along for the ride. That engagement and connecting with y'all is one of my favorite things about doing Bookmas, and I am already planning for next year. I am very excited about it. So only 12 more months before that content. But anyway, y'all, I think that's it. I think I'm gonna go ahead and close out this vlog officially. I hope that wherever you are, whatever you are doing, you are having a wonderful holiday season, that you are safe and warm and filled with joy and peace. And Archibald is now scratching on my door, so that is my cue to end this. I look forward to seeing you in all of the beginning of the year content to come. So until next time, y'all, bye.